Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leha, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.
Back at you and Gloves Off, and today we have a great guest, dear friend of mine, one I call a brother, Sonny Puzikas. He has a training center for self-defense and forward combative center, correct?
Forward training concepts.
Forward training concepts. And he's been just a individual that if you'd like to meet him, he's just great. His history reaches back from he was a Russian Spetsnaz, Special Forces, executive protection specialist, martial artist, just a great guy, and now a Texan. Now we can call him a Texan. How we doing, my brother? You doing good?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Can't complain. And if I did, no one would listen, so I'm not complaining.
That's exactly right. You know, that's the honest truth, you know.
Yeah.
And the only ones that listen are the birds, and they kind of chirp away. But
yeah, I'd rather listen to birds than birds listen to me, you know. So.
But what I want to ask you, what I want to touch base on is the situation now with the self-defense and combatives and self-protection in the individual, the family, and so on and so forth. Where is it going? How do you see it? Is it still the same, or is it changing?
You know, I mean, it's one thing that's always going to remain the same as this. It's always up to individual. It's always up to a person. You know, I mean, it's obvious we cannot put, any kind of trust or expectations that authorities, whatever they may be, local, city, state, federal, that they will do something. They will come to some kind of a, action to prevent something from happening. Many years ago I heard this joke that somebody asked the police officer, investigator, they go like, what's the most important tool that you carry? He goes, this chalk. He goes, chalk? He goes, yes, so I can outline the bodies after we find them. And that's really what it is. The law enforcement, the police, all these other entities, they are there to collect evidence. They are not there to protect, to defend, to prevent things from happening. If people still have delusions about that after the last, 5, 7, 8 years watching things, it's actually much longer than that. But let's just take last 5, 6 years, Then it's a delusion. Then person is just delusional, and that's that, As far as self-defense or self-protection preservation industry, it's like any business. It's a bunch of dudes pushing their credentials, pushing their sometimes made up war stories, pushing the, I was former this, I was former that, thus I'm talking the truth, you should listen to me, everybody. Well, everyone else is a douchebag and they don't know what they're talking about. And then people defending their system and trash talking other systems. And it's kind of like watching a freaking, little flare up of, preschool children gaggling about this and that. It's pathetic. I mean, this is supposed to be industry of the tough guys that know their business and act like adults, but it's far from it. As far as this situation, with what people will have to deal with, things really have not changed much. You have your commonplace criminals, you have your home invasions, you have your thugs, you have your possible carjackers and robbers, you have all that. And obviously since the election of the orange one, our president Donald Trump, now you have the rebirth of the left activists, and they will come in under all kinds of umbrellas, be it racism, be it feminism, be it my body, my choice, be it Trump is not a president, Elon Musk is, and he's destroying democracy, he's a straight up Nazi. It's the monikers may be not the same, but the song, we've heard that song before. We've heard that song in 2016. We heard that song in 2020. Nothing really has changed. Not for the better, not for the worse. I mean, it remains as it was. It's up to you. No one is coming. Prepare, train, don't act stupid, don't go stupid places, and live your life.
Absolutely. You said it. And coming back with the martial arts, and it is the industry of the tough guy, like you said, and it sounds like little kindergartners, even people from the same instructor come out, and they're against each other, and you're like, wait a minute, guys, what's your problem? And it's never ending. You got a bunch of guys that they're afraid of, they hide behind their girlfriends or their wives' back if something happens because they're afraid of walking down the street. I mean, you came up in a place, you've seen some stuff, the same likelihood as I have, and there's such a thing as a tough guy out there in the streets. The guys they whisper about that you don't mess around with. And most of those guys were good guys. They shook your hand, they opened doors, they were gentlemen. And then you had your thug element as well, right? And that is no longer in the martial arts, if you want to put it that way, and that it's converted into something else, and as well as a combative industry as well. And we see that, but many people do not have the luxury to train, and many people are going to get into situations that are uncommon. And I'm glad that you said this about that you're delusional if you think law enforcement is going to come save you, because nobody's going to come save you at the time. Nobody's going to be there for you.
No.
And even if you do call 911, it takes anywhere between 3 to 9 minutes for them to get there. So it's not going to be. They're not going to be there for you. No. So that analogy that you said about the chalk, it makes perfect sense. It's actually true.
Yep.
So go ahead.
With our industry, Paul, another thing is that, I'm watching, and like you talked about, sometimes, the dudes that are coming up from the same even lineage, I'm really sometimes starting to suspect, and I don't know if it's laziness or if it's actually lack of what they have to offer, because some dudes, it's like, they present whatever it is that they present, this is how I do this, this is how I do this. And I start to suspect that that's pretty much the edge of their competence. And then when they see someone else doing something, they really can't say nothing from the perspective, from the vantage point of, well, let's examine this. No, they just start trash talking and, personal attacks and attacking the character, attacking the past, pulling out all kinds of shit. And you kind of go like, maybe it has gotten to the point where, good 80 or 90% of our industry, the only way some of these dudes can lift themselves up is by cutting others down.
Yep.
I mean? They really don't have much to stand on. And the only way they think they remain relevant is talking crap about other people or what other people do. And it's a sad state of affairs. That you're not going to attract good students by doing that. You're certainly not going to get a reputation as someone who should be, that people will look up to or listen to your views, opinions, or take you even seriously. You're just another babbling idiot who tries to talk crap about other people because that's all you have to offer.
No, you're absolutely correct. And you see it, and you see it, and that's what's always been baffling with me. You see it, people come out of one instructor and they're fighting amongst each other. And you're like, wait a minute, guys. You guys
Yeah.
learned it from the same guy, same person. You taught all 20 of you guys, and each one of you has I understand that each one's going to have a different version, but
Which is fine, as it should be.
But that's not the way it should be, man. I think you should help each other out and make it grow. But unlikely, that's just the way it is. It's human nature, I guess. The human element. Like a good friend of ours used to say, the human element is a problem. Human.
Well, it's not just human element, Paul. It's also, like what has happened culturally when you look at people, the whole culture of a man, the culture of the warrior. It has deteriorated to such degree that now it's, some douche out there talks tough game. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and you kind of go like, hey, how about you teach your students how to, if needed, to walk away? How about you teach your students not to escalate, but to de-escalate? How about you teach your students some humility instead of pushing with your own example nothing but freaking, vanity and pride? Because it's visible weakness, and you can see it the way some of these gentlemen talk. You go like, I don't know if you understand that, but you come through as a very, very weak man. You don't project strength, you don't project stability or solidity of character, or you come through as truly, something that you despise yourself as a beta male.
And all of a sudden they're all there.
Oh yeah.
And and if you've been in the ring, of course you might get lost. Somebody can beat you. You didn't have a good day, and so on and so forth. But you don't see that talk out of those arts that are closer to the pugilistic element. Yeah, it's still there, but you don't see it as much as this other stuff that's going out there.
Yeah.
And people out there may not understand what we're talking about, but we're talking about the the issues within the martial arts and combative elements of egos, where ego shouldn't be. And
Yeah.
you're absolutely correct by training people to be humble and to de-escalate instead of going forward. You
Yeah.
know, I
I
was
mean,
told.
there is time to go forward. You know what I mean? But fighting should always be a last resort. It should be a last resort. There is no wisdom in saying, like, well, he called you a name, shoot him in the face. That's straight up stupid. That's straight up idiocy. You know what I mean? But you don't see that being taught. It's like, be aggressive, don't allow yourself to be insulted. And you go like, is this like a freaking sixth grade pecking order school, or is this like adult education for adults? Sometimes you gotta wonder.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Um, they sent me a video about 2 weeks ago about issues, and they sent me a video. What do you think about this? And it's a woman that goes up to a guy and she slaps him at a bar, and the guy turns around and pops her right in the jaw, and she goes to the ground.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's not a American bar. It's more like
It's somewhere in Europe, I believe it happened.
Europe, yeah. And you know which one I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
and you're like, it depends on the culture. Number one, not everybody's the same. We would probably just walked away. You understand what I'm saying? And
Maybe, maybe not. Here's another thing. Like with the rise of feminism, and like we want equality with everything except responsibility for our actions. And you go like, you know what, lady? If you want to play with boys, there is a possibility it's gonna be the rules of the boys. So if
absolutely,
you're
yeah.
so disrespectful that you slapped a man in the public, he's not necessarily going to pummel you into a bloody pulp of flesh, but you just may get slapped and fly under a bar and sit there and go like, oh my man, oh my God, this guy hit a woman. Well, if you acted like a woman, this would have not happened. This would have
Absolutely.
not happened. And again, like you're correct. The other question is, could have dude just, brushed it off and went like, "Hey, lady, I'm just going to walk away from here because if you do it again, I'm afraid I'm not going to have patience to not do what usually is done in situations like that. So I'm just going to leave here." You know, again, each situation is different. It's hard to judge, and it's hard to go like, was it justified? Was it right? Was it wrong? You know, the wrong started that that girl was acting like she's entitled to do whatever she wants to do and face no consequences for it.
You know, and also it goes to teach women. Maybe I'll put it up here. What we're doing, we'll show it over here on the side, the video that we're talking about, and it also goes for women to understand that not all men are going to walk away. Some
Yeah.
men are just say, "I'm sick and tired of this nonsense,"
Yeah.
and you know who you're going to go up against. And people need to realize that. And it goes the other way as well. You know, you have a lot of women that are being slapped around by their significant others. And if they defend themselves, the significant other is the one that's wimping out to calling the police. You have those situations as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes both ways. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have to realize that that is being used now. And that's what happens. But I had a question that was asked the other day. It goes with the rise of, like you said, a lot of the different groups protesting all over the place. What happens if you drive up to a protest and you're in the middle of this? You don't want to come out and become Rodney King.
See, this is, Paul, this is, there's so many variables, You can look at it, from so many different angles. First of all, so you driving, right? Don't you see that something is ahead of you? There's some kind of a commotion or whatnot. There's no need to continue in that direction. Nothing good is going to come out of it. You know it, one way or the other. At the very least, they're going to bang up your car, spit on your windshield, try to break your car, damage it, hit it with their signs and all that stuff. You know what? If you're coming up and you see commotion, you see traffic slowing down, pull off to the side, try to turn away, leave. Leave. There is no need to go, well, but I'm in a rush to go buy some milk. Well, buying milk may turn into a situation where you're going to need to pull your gun to stay alive. And now what? Just because you were in a rush? You know what I mean? It's like, use your damn brain.
Right there, and that goes to the biggest thing that people forget about self-defense and combative situations and the chaotic thing. Awareness.
Yeah, be aware and avoid the best you can is avoiding situations like this. You know what I mean? Because really there is no magic outcome. There is no heroic, conclusion to it where you popped 7 bad guys and they all dead and they're gonna erect monuments for you as defender of the freedom and individual liberties and American values or whatnot. No, they're gonna drag you to freaking courts for years and years. You're gonna lose your job. You're gonna lose your probably family, all of your belongings. You know what I mean? And maybe at the end you're gonna come out without going to jail. Maybe, but your life will never be the same. You're always going to remain target for somebody, whether it's Antifa maggots or any of those, activists or whatnot, they're always going to look at you as, like, oh, if we get our hands on him, if there is an opportunity, people say, well, they all cowards. They're not going to do anything. It takes once, brother. It takes once. It takes once, There are some of those activists. This is what people don't realize, This is generational. People go like, oh, guys in military are different. I go like, have you looked at the military generation today? 70% of those dudes are the dudes that have man buns and wear skinny jeans. 70% of current staff in the military, including officers, are people of very liberal views and very liberal, mindsets. It's no longer the military of the 80s, of the 90s. You know what I mean? The same with the police force, especially in the cities. Most of the officers are relatively liberally minded dudes that have not seen hard life. They don't have any convictions behind them. They never sold dope. They never got into a scrap on the street. Because to get that job, you have to have a clean record. You know what I mean? So they are suburban raised or DEI hires that certainly don't qualify to do that job. Why the hell do you think that they're going to be doing the right thing and they're going to rise up to the occasion? It's not going to happen, you know. And another thing is this, you know, people go like, well, what is the solution? What guns should I carry? I'm like, if you start questioning with that, we have problems. We have problems, you know. You know, if you got yourself somehow, you made a mistake or you didn't notice it was a flash mob, you know what I mean? You didn't notice all of a sudden people are running out of the side streets and your car is surrounded, you know what I mean? This is something that you're going to have to decide in split seconds, you know what I mean? To judge that crowd, because if you misjudge it and you got to get out in the car, they may rip you to pieces and kill you right there. If you are a woman, they can do terrible things to you. You know, at the same time, people say, well, if I stay sitting in the car, yeah, if you stay sitting in the car, other bad things can happen. But the car is a pretty powerful weapon. You know, your chances to get out of there are probably better by driving that car. Initially, at first, slowly, just trying to push people out of the way. Don't slam on the gas and start driving over the bodies or whatnot. But you probably have more safety in your car than you have stepping outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and these are, again, each situation will be different. Each situation will be variable. If you're sitting in the car and you see people with Molotov cocktails, getting out of the car is probably a better choice because they will burn your life in that car. You know, so there's people go like, what is the best solution? And I go like, best solution, don't be there. That's the best solution. You know, if you find yourself in that kind of predicament, man, you're going to have to make a lot of choices based on your observations, based on your capabilities, skills, what you have available. Make phone calls, you know, turn on the camera in your phone. That way these people see that they're being filmed. That may be enough to deter, or it may provoke them to act even more aggressively. You don't know. And none of us can predict it, how it's going to turn. You don't know if these are active Antifa people, or they just sympathizers, or they just bunch of punks that want to play tough. You can't predict that. You can't predict that. So there's really no good answer, you know, besides if you know that stuff like that is happening somewhere near where you live, today is probably not the day for you to leave the house and go into the open. Stay in the house, have your stuff loaded, locked and loaded and ready, lock your doors, prepare for the worst, and sit it out until it blows by. Now, granted, if your wife works in some store and it's happening around her workplace, you're going to have to make tough choices. You're going to have to make very tough choices, and it sucks, you know. But that's today's reality. That's what we live with. That's what may start happening again in the months or years to come. We just don't know.
Absolutely correct. And you said, glad that you said it, because people can hear that version that is out there, you know, because this is what's happening. What we're going to be faced with.
Yeah.
You have to realize that sometimes you're stuck, and if you're studying videos that's the thing you can do, study what's been out there. And when you see these videos of people in there, police are actually going to arrest the one that's trying to get out of the location. They're not going to the people.
You know, and that's something to teach your loved ones too, you know, like you got to think about it, and even on your phone, have things available that you can actually, if you found yourself in a situation like that and you're in the car and they start banging on your windshield and doing these things, just because you record it on the phone and something then bad really happens doesn't mean that anyone will ever find your phone. You know what I mean? So maybe it's a good idea to have software and abilities on your phone to start live streaming as it's happening. Because as it's being live streamed, there is a possibility someone will call cops. Someone will let people know what's going on. You know what I mean? It's the things to consider that really have nothing to do with your ability to throw fists, elbows, knees, and shoot, 9mm 45 caliber bullets. it goes beyond that. But because when you by yourself in the middle of hundreds of people, I'm sorry, I don't care how well you fight, your chances are not very good. Your chances are not very good.
Absolutely. People, you just something that's reality strike. How good you are, what degree you have. You might have more degrees than a thermometer on your belt, but if there's more than a couple there, you're not going to go that far.
Yeah, and as I said, it's not, I think social skills and understanding how things like that can happen and how they can escalate, it is part of being the martial artist. You know what I mean? Because you have to understand how society works, how the crowds, how the mobs function, and the mob mentality. And then, yes, historically looking back since 2016, you look what those mobs have done and what kind of people are part of those mobs. I would not be very optimistic in finding myself in the crowd of people like that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And people need to understand that. And then you have people, a mob is.
Hey, Paul, I don't know what's going on with the sound, but the sound is really breaking up. I have problems hearing you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now, yeah. But like a minute ago when you were talking, I could not hear you at all. It was just kind of like some kind of a...
Oh, it's better now. What I was saying was, if you see that there's a mob forming somewhere else and you see that in the news, there's a lot of people that go over there and film it. Why? Go the other direction. That's not where you're supposed to. The best advice is that way. If it's this way, that's where you should be. That way.
Yes, absolutely. Unless it's your job, unless you're some kind of private investigator, or you're gathering some information, or you're a journalist or whatnot, hey, make that decision, understand the risks that it comes with, and don't be stupid. But as a regular citizen, for you to go there and gawking, go like, oh, I just want to see what's going to happen. You may not like what's going to happen to you.
Absolutely. Now, those are some great concepts, great thoughts, great things that people should understand and be prepared with. If somebody wants to train at your school, how can they get where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't hear your question again. It didn't come through at all.
I said those were some counsels that you gave to people to hopefully. And DFW wants to train with you. How can they find you?
Well, in DFW, I mean, I'm 2 hours east of Dallas. I live out in the country now in East Texas. The best way to find me is through my website, www.sonnypuzikas.com. Pretty easy. I'm present on social media. I have my YouTube channel. I have my Facebook, my Instagram, my X, my this and that. Every Tuesday I do, like a live stream for my podcast every Tuesday night. And but the easiest way to find me is just go to my website, see what we have, figure out the way to contact me through email or my social media, send me private message. And, I'm not hard to find. I'm definitely not hard to find. So
We need to get together so we can do it.
sorry, Paul. I didn't hear you. Something is happening with either your audio or my reception. I don't know. It's just I hear a lot of like.
I said this year we have to get together again. We have to do something good.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been to Laredo area. I'm traveling a lot less. I'm teaching mostly here at my place. I take like maybe 3, maybe 4 trips a year. I go up to like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, teach a little bit there. Every now and then I'll take a trip to either Florida or West Coast, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, teach some classes there. But for the most part, I'm focusing right here where I'm at. I have my facility, I have my range, I have my the group of people that are more or less local. I have a lot of people out of state coming here to train regularly, but I'm getting older, so kids and farm and my own business and family. So I'm trying to not to be on the road like I used to do. 40 weeks out of the year I'm on the road. I no longer do that. Again, I'm just getting too old for that.
I hear you. Wait, thank you once more, and we'll do it again. And
All right, Paul.
want to get a hold of Sonny Puzikas, sonnypuzikas.com is the best way. And more, if you guys like it, found this to your liking, click share, click like, and we'll do this. You also be safe, and God bless you. Sonny, we'll see you soon,
All right.
brother.
Thanks, Paul.